Okay, so Philadelphia was hosting San Francisco. You know what the facts were going into it. Philadelphia 10-1, San Francisco 8-3, and yet Philadelphia was getting 3.5 points. How could I resist that? So the first quarter of the game, I was listening on radio. Merrill Reese and Mike Quick, excellent job on local station WIP. WYSP, actually, WYSP. And like Philadelphia was doing terrific. They weren't scoring a lot of points. I guess they were up like 6-0, but San Francisco was just doing horribly. And I'm feeling so great.
Yeah.
Of course, how could I not take Philadelphia in the points? And then I went home. See, this is why it took a turn. Then I went home and I watched on television, and the wheels fell off the bus for Philadelphia. What is the lesson? If only I had stayed in my car. And continued driven around, Philadelphia would have won that game.
It was all on you.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
But don't you ever think weird thoughts like that?
No. Yes, of course.
If I had stayed in the car.
Why do you think people wear the same thing every game day?
Exactly.
Come on. Don't change your underwear. Hashtag
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, bet sports on the Bet Parks app or bet in person at the brand new Parks Casino in Shippensburg. Fall is the perfect time, fall, winter, for day trips. Put the new Parks Casino Shippensburg on your list if you live in Western Maryland, Northern Virginia, South Central Pennsylvania, or West Virginia. I'm talking about Hagerstown, Maryland, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, Carlisle, PA, and a lot more. Get in on all the action now open in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, less than an hour from Harrisburg. Parks Casino. All the online fun stuff, blackjack, roulette, and more. And you can bet sports in the sporting kiosks located throughout the casino. Got to be 21 for the casino. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Headlines now from Smerconish.com, the newsletter. Don't buy a car made in Philadelphia today. The good thing is we don't make cars in Philadelphia, but they always used to say about Detroit, like, avoid a car that was made on a Friday. Everybody's looking forward to the weekend, or a car that's made on a Monday because everybody's miserable and they don't want to be making your car. Nobody wants to be making your cheesesteak today in Philadelphia. That game last night was just
a killer.
A killer.
A killer.
Yeah.
Whew.
I mean,
in the rain.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
The most interesting thing was for me was when the Eagles chief of security got thrown out of the game with the San Francisco linebacker because the two of them got into a skirmish on the sideline.
Yes, that was the most interesting
I've
thing.
I've always seen that big guy and behind Nick Sirianni. I never knew, I thought he was an assistant coach. I had no idea who he was and what his role was, but it was really interesting.
I don't know who he is, but now we do.
So two times in a row in the third quarter. In fact, this was the sequence that made it 21-12, then the Eagles got an extra point and it made it 21-13. They had the brotherly shove or the tush push. And then Jalen Hurts got banged up. He went out of the game. Eagles backup quarterback comes in. This is all from memory, but I saw him run the brotherly shove or the tush push successfully as well. There's no stopping when Jason Kelce is your center, especially with Jalen Hurts as the quarterback, and then when you've got two running backs pushing Hurts forward, there's no stopping that play. And, what we used to call a quarterback sneak, although it's now much more sophisticated. This is crazy, but according to the New York Post and The Athletic, they say this: Philadelphia Eagle fans may not want to hear it, but one NFL power broker thinks one of their go-to plays should be illegal. A source told The Athletic's Diana Rossini that NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell wants to see the tush-push removed from the game next season. The plan, run primarily by the Eagles, typically consists of Hurts lining up behind All-Pro center Jason Kelce with two players behind him, snapping the ball, falling forward while the two aforementioned players essentially shove him past the mark for a first down or a touchdown. When they ran it for a touchdown, as I described in the third quarter, they were like on the 1 yard line, and I think Jalen Hurts ended up 4 yards into the end zone. That's how powerful it is. But like other teams could do it too.
A rugby scrum. If you've ever watched rugby, they get so low that there's no chance that they can be pushed back, and they're so strong.
But I don't know what the answer is here, because you could say, well, other teams, if you don't like it, then do it, or other teams come up with a way to stop it.
Well, that's the question that it's unstoppable.
I don't know if it can be stopped.
Well, obviously it can be, or it can be. You can. Exhibit A, the final score last night. It's not. In other words, it doesn't make you win a game.
Well, but you can't push 100 yards down the field and keep going back.
That's my point. So what's the problem?
Your tush would be pushed out.
Push.
Almost pushing for the tushing. But anyway, I think it's really an interesting. It could be a Sunday poll question.
Oh boy.
Okay. Now if it's a Sunday poll question, am I referring to it as the tush push
or the brotherly shove?
Or the brotherly shove, or do I say both? Tush push, aka brotherly shove. It's a great.
Which is the AKA?
Which gets the AKA, yeah, or brotherly shove, aka tush push.
I think that
it could be a great Sunday poll question.
For sure.
Don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, remind me next week because I may want to do this.
Okay, that sounds good.
I got to close the loop on a story that we talked about here. Christina Revels Glick is the woman who was arrested for pleasuring herself on a Georgia beach. And no sooner had the story come to light than there was a report of her having taken her own life. And I was with TC and we were discussing this in real time. My angle was simply to say that I found it to be such an overstep, such an overreach of law enforcement to actually place handcuffs on this woman when they had a report of what she was doing. And then as we were talking live on radio, on YouTube, in our chat feature, people started to say she's taken her life.
Right.
She's taken her life.
Right.
So we went looking for that information, and then we went looking for information a day or two thereafter, and it seemed like she had taken her life, but there really wasn't much news about it, and kind of lost the thread. Well, the Daily Mail now has the full story. She took her life 8 months after the humiliating incident, but here is the key part, and that's sad in and of itself. Today, DailyMail.com can set the record straight as family members have confirmed that she died by suicide, but that her death came more than a year and a half ago and had nothing to do with the beach incident or its resurfacing. It had looked on the surface like the video came to light,
and therefore she
ended her life.
It is all such a sad and tragic story. That would have been another layer of sad and tragic story, but it wasn't. That was not the reason. And
no.
It's weird to say I'm grateful for that, but I am a little bit. I'm also sad for the family that lost their loved one a year and a half ago, that now this video has resurfaced. Now they have to see it all over the news. So the whole thing is just awful.
Sad.
Yeah.
It's just sad. Yeah. Since we were last together, Judge Tanya Chutkin released an opinion first by a federal court judge to hold what probably seems obvious, and that is that a former president is not immune from criminal prosecution for crimes committed while serving as president. And this, of course, related to one of the 4 prosecutions of Donald Trump. There was a story that we had in the Saturday newsletter from NPR taking a look, and I've talked about this on radio and television before, but I never offered the percentage analysis that I'm about to give you. Taking a look at the Trump prosecution schedule as it now exists, a lot of intangibles, a lot of question marks. Much more definitive is the voting schedule. And here's what you need to know. March is shaping up to be a really big month for the Republican nomination process. It remains to be seen how many candidates will still be in the race by March, right? After Super Tuesday, March the 5th, Republicans will have allocated almost half of their delegates, as there will be 16 contests that day. A week later, 54% of delegates will be set by the end of March, because the first prospect of Trump going to trial is in the month of March before Judge Chutkin. Okay? By the end of March, 71% of Republican delegates will have been selected. So there won't, I'll say it differently, there will not have been a finding of guilt or not guilty, not innocence, guilt or not guilty, by the time 3/4 of the delegates have been selected. So I can't imagine what this is going to look like. I just cannot imagine what this is going to look like, where voting is going to start in Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina and Nevada, and it's going to be a blur. He will not have gotten to trial but the prospect exists that he could secure the nomination and then be convicted. And then what? I don't know. 2024 is going to be a crazy year. We're in the thick of the holiday season right now. Also published over the weekend at Smerconish.com from The Guardian. Too much stuff. Can we solve our addiction to consumerism? TC Chip Colwell wrote this. The beginning says, alarmed by the rising tide of waste we are all creating, my family and I have decided to do with much less. But while individual behavior is important, real change will require action on a far bigger scale. He's written a book on the same subject.
It looks incredible. And he starts off this Guardian piece talking about going to visit a landfill and what impact it had on him to see just how much stuff is being trashed. And in the part of the landfill and the trash and the dump area where he visited, there was a very small area for recycling or regifting or whatever it is. It's just astonishing when you think about it, what goes in and out of our homes. I've been really making an effort to sort of streamline just you don't need so much stuff around.
I still wonder about recycling being a misnomer. Do things really get recycled or they just get disposed of differently? Remember, it was a year.
Yes,
I guess it was Catherine gave me my air tags a year ago.
Right.
I haven't gone back to check recently. I assume they're still in a dump near Reading.
And was it a dump or was it a recycling facility in Berks County?
Don't know.
Yeah, that's what we don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, read that story, but be mindful of it. We're going to have this author on the program between now and Christmas, I hope, as sort of a reminder of why another reason not to go haywire.
Well, I was about to say it's kind of an interesting time of year to be discussing that as we're sort of
totally deliberate.
Right?
Totally deliberate. There's a method to our madness.
Yes.
I also like the story from Good News Network about a 10-year-old girl in the UK, her idea for a post box to heaven so that she could write to her grandparents is now being realized at cemeteries. You know how there are boxes that pop up at this time of year where you can send a letter to Santa?
There's a toy store near where I live, and there's a box outside. I check it every day. I just want to see if anybody's put something in there.
And?
I'm like, not yet, but I'm working on it.
You'd be good at writing back to some of those letters.
Okay, well, that's exactly the question I have, and it wasn't in this article.
Yeah. Does anybody write back?
No one's going to write back. What do they do with the letters? What's wrong with you?
A young girl's idea for a postbox to heaven so that she could write to her grandparents has been realized at cemeteries across the U.S. 10-year-old Matilda Handy came up with the suggestion after both her grandparents died 5 years apart. Her mother approached the Gedling Crematorium in Nottingham with the idea. They heartily responded by erecting an old postbox painted white and gold just in time for Christmas.
Yeah, it's like a memorial box. But I am curious about what they do with the letters, because in some instances they're getting thousands.
Hey, I went to church yesterday that is not my normal church.
I saw it on Instagram.
A one-off. I went to a Lutheran, and I can now pronounce it correctly.
Oh, good to know.
My mother-in-law, I didn't know this, my mother-in-law was of the Lutheran faith. My wife explained to me this weekend.
Wow.
But the quick backstory here was really wonderful. The quick backstory is that the St. Paul's Lutheran Church is in the town where I was born and raised, Doylestown, Pennsylvania. And I have heard reports from friends, some of whom are part of the congregation, that the Dr. Robert H. Linders, who is the theologian in chief, references me. From time to time, will reference things that I have said
from the
and
pulpit,
incorporate them into his sermon.
Okay.
So when I was first told this, I went online because, like many churches these days, they stream the service. And I thought, I said it on radio. I said, this guy really has a gift. And I told him yesterday, I said, thank goodness. I didn't say thank God. I said, thank goodness that you're doing what you're doing, because otherwise you'd be in my business and one of my people, maybe me, would be out of a job. He's that
good?
Well spoken.
Wow.
So it was just fun, because I went to church and watched and participated and met him and enjoyed him.
Yeah.
And it was such a nice gathering.
Well, here's the thing. It seems to me that you very much enjoy going to church,
Right.
And you appreciate the power of the spoken word.
I do.
In all of its,
I do.
In all of its manifestations. So it seems like that would be a good combination. And that picture of you two on Instagram was it just sort of, you could see that shining.
Right. No disrespect to Father Donovan. You're still great. And for one day, I had to go elsewhere and take a look and just see what was going on. I like the idea of just kind of, going around and
why not?
Drifting into churches.
Yeah.
Okay. Not only did I go to church this weekend, TC, but I also, more headlines. I also went to the movies, and I want to tell you something. I pay attention to what is being released in theaters.
You went out to the movies?
Yes.
Oh.
I pay attention to what's being released in theaters, usually with no interest in going. Okay? Because I look and I'm like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. Right now, it turns out, and in particular, you can do this at a theater close to us, there are like 3 or 4 great movies to go and watch. So much so that my wife and I decided to go to the movies this weekend, and I said, okay, I don't know which to go to because we have great choices.
What are your choices?
Okay, so Holdovers is a very good movie.
Yes.
My wife loved it. I thought it was very good. Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
He's at a private like prep school, and he's the one who's on duty during the Christmas holiday. Yeah. It's a bit predictable, but it's well done.
Okay,
that's number one.
Okay,
I've seen it. I give it a thumbs up. Brad, you're taking notes for the first time. For the first time, TC's taking notes. Maestro with Bradley Cooper about Leonard Bernstein. Haven't seen it. Getting good reviews. Okay. Dream Scenario, which when we saw previews of coming attraction, this is Nicolas Cage.
Okay.
Where apparently everyone starts seeing Nicolas Cage in their dreams. And he's a real person, but people who don't know him or have any connection to him, it looks really good in previews. Great reviews.
Wow.
Okay. And then something I'd not heard of called May December.
Oh.
May December. Also great reviews.
Isn't that like the Mary Kay Letourneau?
So I went to Rotten Tomatoes, and you know that Rotten Tomatoes has 2 scores. There's the Rotten Tomatoes score, which is the critics, and then there's a second score, which is the audience. So each of the movies that I've just identified for you is like high 80s or 90 in terms of what the critics are saying. Actually, Maestro was not that high, but all high enough that I would say, if these critics know something, then it's worth going to. But what differentiated May December was the audience score. So much so that I read a story that said Netflix fans have been going wild for a new drama film rated 92% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wait, it's on Netflix or it's in the theaters?
That's a little confusing. May December, starring Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore, which has also received critical acclaim, was released on November 17 before streaming on Netflix on December 1 in the U.S. and on Sky Cinema. This is from a UK source. So I've never seen it on Netflix, but it might be available on Netflix.
Okay.
The American movie, directed by Todd Haynes from a screenplay by Sammy Birch, loosely inspired by the story of Mary Kay Letourneau. The film follows actress Elizabeth, Natalie Portman, who travels to Georgia to meet and study the life of the controversial woman, Gracie Atherton Yu, played by Julianne, she is set to play in the films. In other words, Natalie Portman is going to play Mary Kay Letourneau, Julianne Moore, so she goes and embeds with her for a couple of weeks to get a feel for her life.
Interesting.
Great movie.
Wow.
Great movie. I now this is obviously the one that we went to see, and I totally understand why fans have warmed to it and created a buzz about it. Of course, at the end of the movie, my wife had to explain to me what was really going.
Of the movie?
Yeah, what was really going on in the movie.
She was there, right?
But I'm just like, for what it's worth, I'm telling you, there's some really good movies.
Okay, wait, that was only 4. Did you really mean 5, or is it 4?
No, I think I only said 4.
Yeah, 4. May, December, Holdovers, Maestro, and Dream Scenario.
Right. I didn't know this. If you're listening to me and you're wondering why is it called May December?
A May December romance.
I never heard that before.
What?
Yeah, I never heard that. A May December romance.
Really?
Never heard it. So May December, Maestro I've not seen, Holdovers I have seen, Dream Scenario, which I will see.
Wow.
So there you go. There you go. What do you want to do next? We only have a minute left. Pick out one more that you like.
Wow. Okay, that's a tough one. How about Do you want to talk about Kiss, Sly Stallone, or the bomb in the garden?
Okay, a UK family had something unique in the garden. They didn't know what it was. It was a bomb.
Yeah.
Kiss says, that's it. We're finished after performing at Madison Square Garden. I don't know who to believe.
I have friends that went Saturday night. They said it was unbelievable.
Had
dinner with them last night. They said it was unbelievable, and they said they just A+. And that as they were walking out, there was a couple that were in their mid-70s, both painted, holding hands, walking out. They said it was like couple goals.
I missed the Kiss train. Never got into it. And Sylvester Stallone was back in Philadelphia over the weekend for Rocky Day, and that's pretty cool as well.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, that's a lot of headlines. Like I was really proud of the content during the weekend and today. Please make sure you are voting on today's poll question. I want to know if money buys happiness. There's a lot of scientific data out there. I want to know what our audience thinks. Okay? See ya.